And we are live. Hey everyone, welcome to season 2, episode 8 of Power Rangers, the Putty Hour podcast. Thank you for joining us. Of course, it's always me, Matt Aguilar, aka Nidovoa, and Nick Valdez, the wonderful Valdezology. How are you, buddy?
Howdy, everybody. Happy to be here, especially this time around. Yeah, all our guests are great, but let's roll out the red carpet. Let's do it a little more so.
Yes, I agree. So, of course, as you can see, we are the least important people here. We have a wonderful, wonderful person, Power Rangers writer, Rogue Sun writer, Ryan Parrott with us. How are you?
I am good. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. And it has been a day. We were just talking about that. Has been a day of news and
big day
things. Yeah, big things. So, of course, everyone probably knows this watching the show. But Ryan, we've announced that it is your final issue is coming up with issue 100 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the big climactic finale to Charge to 100. It didn't feel like, for me, like when I think about like when you started on this book, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. And then you look at it and go, oh man, like that's
I've aged dog years, so yeah, no, it feels like 6 years to me, 100%. No, it's weird. Yeah, I mean, just to clarify for anybody who doesn't know, like I actually haven't done all 100 issues of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, so people know that. Just because it's like some people get confused. They're like, wait a minute, are you like 100? But I did the math on it with you combined like Aftershock and you combine Go-Go and if you combine the 6 different iterations that are the Power Ranger books, it's like 105 or 106 issues or something like that. So that's
so
why I was like, I'm over 100.
Yeah, you're over. Yeah, and also, I mean, if you count TMNT, right?
Yeah, I think that makes it like 106 something like that. It might be right at 100 without that one. So yeah.
No, that's amazing. What a milestone.
Crazy.
It's awesome too, because today has been this is like one of the things I love about, like, Nick can attest, right? The amazing things about Ranger Nation, and seeing everybody come out, and like it's such a like a warm hug. It's so nice to see that. How's it been feeling now that the news is out?
I was really excited because they told me they were going to announce it like 4 days ago. And so I had like a little thing in my notes. So I was like, I had my little draft ready of like getting ready. It was like, when are they going to release it? I want to tell people, because I was just sort of excited to sort of like get that out, because people have been asking, whether or not, how long are you going to be on and what do you plan to do with the rest of the series and stuff like that. So it was nice to finally just be out there and be like, hey, this is it. And honestly, it's been really, it's been overwhelmingly nice. Like I don't think I've had anybody come out. I was waiting for a few of those. Good riddance, like, thank God, finally 6 years of holding on to this with both hands. You can finally let go and let somebody else have it. So, but it was nice to not have that. So I really appreciate no one coming at me for that. But it was nice. It's been some very sweet. There's been some really, really nice messages and some very, like, some people are legitimately sad. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, it's the end of an era. It's a big deal for just getting to the 100 is a big enough deal on its own, and then to have a central writer for so much of that, including so many of the side projects, it's different. I don't know. Like, Matt can probably speak to this more because he's more of the reading all kinds of comic books. I'm sort of, I jumped into Power Rangers when it started. Those are my comic books.
Okay.
So, So I don't know what it's like with like different creative teams and dealing with all that stuff, but for me, this is a big deal for me.
Oh,
yeah,
thanks.
I just want to get that out there first. All the mushy stuff out there.
I'll take it. Take it all.
He started for you.
Yeah,
you started comics for you,
and I'm abandoning you.
And
basically, I'm leaving you. It's like you're a Padawan at the temple, and I am just leaving you for the clone troopers to kill. So yeah, that's what I'm here for. Yep.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, it is something, because you don't see it in comics all the time. You're used to seeing a kind of rotating crew every year. I guess like every 12 issues kind of tends to be the normal thing. And so to get an extended run, and like you mentioned, Ryan, to get in several iterations, in Go-Go, and then splitting the books, and then through events, and we've had several major events at this point, and then of course like the side thing. So it is really impressive. How long has this been in the in the planning stage, you feel like, did you know it was going to be issue 100 for a minute?
Not really. I mean, just to sort of go back to what you just said about like long runs, I should be honest. Like the person I'm gonna thank profusely when the book actually comes out is Daphne Plebin. Like she told me really early on, like right after Go-Go when I took over Mighty Morphin, she was like, I want you to take a long time. She's like, I see you on this book for many years, and I want to give you the time. She was like, I'm gonna mess it up. You should talk to her, have her come on at some point, and say, because she was like, I think that's when really good storytelling happens, and when somebody's on a book for an extended period of time and can get into a groove and get to know the characters and has the time. Because it seems like for so many people who, like you said, the rotation of comic books, usually it's like by the time you figure out what you want to tell and how you want to tell it, you have to move on to something else. And like I've always said, like I didn't know how to write a comic book until I wrote Go-Go, and I mean that in the sense of like I didn't know what I liked to write. I didn't know what were the things that made me excited, and it was Go-Go that made me, because of Daphne, made me go, oh, I think I kind of like writing small character, like teenager stories. I like writing stories about your life that you can put in there. And that's what Go-Go became, was like my first chapter. And so the way I've been thinking about it recently is like, it's like I wrote 4 seasons of TV, like in my head. Like Go-Go was season 1, Necessary Evil was season 2, the Eltarian War was season 3, and Death Ranger is season 4. And because in each one, and so, I mean, this is the sort of insight on it. They're all sort of tracking Jason, Trini, and Zach's like story. Like I look at Go-Go as being high school, that we all go to high school and it's about dealing with high school problems and that moment when like responsibilities start kicking in. And that was the first thing. And then I looked at Necessary Evil as being sort of college. They go away to college, they leave their old friends at home, they have a new mentor and a new teacher, they're looking at the world in different ways. And then the Altarian War to me was the teacher's gone, they get out of college, and now you got to find your own footing, you got to find your own path. Like, okay, what's important? What am I doing with my life? What are we doing? Is this actually what I want to do with everything? And so that was that one. And then for Death Ranger, now that it's actually, I can call it Death Ranger, I couldn't call it that for the first like 5 issues because no one knew what it was. But for me, Death Ranger is sort of it's birth and death. It's that when you're right after you run 25 to 30, that's the first time in your life where your friends start having kids and you start losing parents and grandparents, and it's the first time in my life that I started losing people, and you're like, wow, like this is that thing where like everything's got to get really mature. So if you look at what we've been doing with Power Rangers, with Journey and with the Death Ranger, like I'm literally doing like what's it like to be a new parent, and also what's it like to lose people in your life. And so that's what the final. So because they came to me right around like halfway through, they're like, hey, we're thinking about, like, do you want to keep writing Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers together? And I was like, God, no. I was like, I need a break. I am exhausted because I was missing a lot of my deadlines on Altarian War just because I was just so overwhelmed. And I was like, I'm just having a hard time keeping up with everything. And so she's like, okay, so we can take you off one and you can do Power Rangers. And I was like, cool. And then they were like, oh, and by the way, like you'll have about 6 issues before we go back to 100, because that's the big thing. And I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, do you know what you want to do with that? And that's when we started talking about the Death Ranger of it all, because I'd had that idea in my back pocket from like Go-Go. I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. I just liked the idea of the teeth under the thing. I just thought that was a really yeah. Well, it was. Yeah.
It's such a cool design. Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah. I really liked it. So that's where the idea was. And so when we started talking about the Death Ranger and like the 6 issues and then going into 100, I was like, well, this feels kind of like the end of the story for me. And they were like, yeah, I think maybe. Yeah, it was like they were very like, if you want to stay on, you can. And if you want to keep doing. But I kind of was like, I think this is sort of it. I think this sort of feels like a natural spot to sort of get off the bus a little bit in a way. And I think that was important too. I wanted to, it's like, what's that line? I feel like on Power Ranger books, it's like you either live long enough, you either die a hero or stay long enough to become the villain. For some people, I've been a villain for a little while now, so I just thought, it's about time to maybe get off and let somebody else play with the toys and have them tell the story, because I've been so lucky to do this for such a long time, and I don't want to hog all the toys for too long. 6 years is plenty, right?
Yeah. It's a great run. But yeah.
Those are years. Like let's not put that lightly. 6. That's years. 300.
Somebody tweeted at me. They were like, "I started reading your book when I was in junior high, and now I'm a junior in college."
Ooh,
and I was like, "Oh man." You've been with me the long haul, dude.
I don't like it when people date me like that. Someone told me some random fact about a show I watch, because like I'll say stuff to Anissa sometimes, and we have about a 5-year gap between us.
Okay.
And so I'll say stuff, and she'll look at me like I know the look now of like, and I'm like, you didn't watch any of that, did you? So, nope. I was just gonna let it go, but yeah, I was like, yeah, I know. I know the look of like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah, it's a very much a big thing there. So 100 is going to be, and you brought up Death Ranger, and by the way, Nick is all in on Death Ranger.
Yeah, I was 100% sold. I was like, I need to know as much as I can about this immediately. And you were right, Ryan. It's the teeth. Like it's
just a
the
new teeth thing.
Yeah, like it's like a Terminator thing, and like
he's got like a weird smile all the time now. He's just like, hello.
So cool. It's such
it's a lot of fun
idea. Yeah, it really.
How did the design come about?
That was my pitch. I was like, I want to do the Death Ranger. It's just, and that was my argument, was like, it was a long conversation about what it was going to be, because I'd pitched it as, I think this isn't a spoiler, I think it's been said that it's the Gold Omega Ranger. Yes, it's been out there? Crap, did I just give it all away?
I don't honestly remember, but
okay,
a lot of stuff comes into my brain. So,
all right. Well, I'm just gonna
my forgetfulness. It probably was.
I think it's out there. Oh man, I'm gonna feel real bad if I just. Well, hey, exclusives. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
we're gonna get in. That was the other part of the story. I was like, we created the Omega Rangers. I'm in Necessary Evil. I was like, hey, we've talked about the fact that we're old. There were Omega Rangers before. Zordon says it. So I was like, I feel, and whenever I do that, I was like, we owe that. We gotta pay that off. I don't want to just like, oh yeah, and we'll just never talk about that. So that was one of the things we talked about, was like, let's do that. So it was more of so then I was like, okay, it should be the Gold Omega Ranger, and then we should play with the idea of what they are. And I was just like, I just want, literally my pitch was like, I just want the teeth. Give me the teeth under the helmet. And I wanted to watch, at one point, I think I pitched a much more ornate helmet. I think I pitched like it was like that thing from Sparta where it had like the long metal claw. Like it was way more excessive. And they were like, settle down. It's still got to look like a Ranger. And I was like, all right. So, yeah.
Okay, but are those designs sitting somewhere? Because
there's a long Gmail chat of like 67 messages of arguments between me and Daphne, and I think it was Dan. I think Dan Mora did the designs for it. So
Dan's awesome.
Yeah.
Dan could draw the phone book and it would be awesome. But yeah, no, we number one, yes, we need definitely to talk to Daphne, because she's been amazing. And I
wish you'd said that earlier. I would have made a giant phone book bad guy at some point just to be able to make that joke.
Yes, please. And really,
this is the only
right. If there's a franchise that
this
works,
is the one.
Yeah, this is the one. We have goats.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a crazy phone, psycho phone. Yeah.
I still feel bad about when it was like one of my first, I don't know if it was one of my first, I think it was one of my first interviews that I did with the Power Rangers team for a comic book forever ago. And I got the thing back from the transcription thing, and like I typically scour those for misspellings or name things or whatever, but like I missed one, and it was Daphne's name.
Oh, wow.
And I remember that forever.
I can't spell it.
But yeah. I got roasted. And it was because it wasn't even like a letter off. It was
okay. Oh, I think I remember this.
Yeah.
I do remember this. Yeah.
And Kyle was like, he shared it all over the place and thought it was like amazing. I was
lovely.
like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But she's amazing. Yes. The design is cool. And by the way, yes, I do think it is apparent that he is like got a gold suit on.
Yeah, he's got like the what do you call it? The symbol for gold on his helmet.
Yeah,
so like I feel like I'm not spoiling anything there. Yeah,
it's there.
Okay,
I think we're good. So if it's going to move, is this kind of a clean break for you as far as like, are you open to jumping back in at some point later on for small things, or is it like, no, I'm gonna really like let those other people jump into the toy box completely?
Here's that thing. Do I play coy or do I just tell the truth? I will tell you this. I think this is probably the end of my run for doing a monthly series for Power Rangers, but I would not be opposed to, I have another story in my back pocket that I want to do. And so They know it. Boom knows it. So we'll see. It's like I have said, like, I'm not doing the monthly anymore just because I felt like somebody else should do it and I need to sleep again someday. So I'm Rumpelstiltskin after 6 years of doing Power Rangers. But no, I was like, I pitched them something else, and I was like, hey, this would be something I'd like to do if that was a possibility. So we'll see. But it's not. Okay, sorry. Somebody's response. I'm like, I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, I stick it in there.
No. But yeah, like I have some. I pitched them another thing. We'll see if it happens. And it would be more of like a one-off thing. It wouldn't be like a monthly or anything like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. And you've been busy though, because you got 2 other series that you're working on. Rogue Sun,
right.
By the way, which Nick is also 100%.
Yeah. I'm all in on Rogue Sun. Like,
all right.
Yeah, I'm really into the idea of like talking to a ghost dad, and like I like the and I already like the dynamic of like the ghost dad, that like there's so much tragedy in it, of it not only being a ghost dad, but like a ghost absentee father who's now trying to come back late in his son's life, and like all this other stuff, and now it's gotten even more complicated. But I don't know.
Without spoiling it, yeah, it does. It gets there. Yeah.
I'm trying not to spoil it for anybody who hasn't jumped in yet, but like I'm all in personally. So I can't wait to see where that goes. I guess.
Good. I'm glad.
Stop there. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, issue 4.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big one.
Big swing.
Yeah.
Well, issue 4 is where I'm not going to spoil it to anybody, but issue 4 is where I can finally start talking about what the series is actually about. Like once you get to 4, you're like, oh, okay, now I know what the book's about. Yeah, for me, like that's the way I look at it. It's like I could say it like we could put a spoiler warning, but like there's like without revealing that thing, like to me that was what the initial concept of the book was, and then I sort of backtracked it to issue 1 and then backtracked it to the pitch, because I always wanted it to be about the whole thing. Does that make sense? I'm being kind of coy. But like if you know what the reveal is at 4, it should make what the series is a giant metaphor for what happened. Does that make sense? I'm being very, very nebulous. Anyways, it's all right. Well, but yes, Rogue Sun, I'm
a family affair.
There you go. That's a way to look at it. Yeah, it's all because like the whole thing. So yeah, that was well played. The way I look at it is like so my parents divorced when I was 6 years old, and I would go back and forth between my dad's house with his and he got remarried, had a bunch of had 2 kids from a previous family, and so I would go back and forth between my mom and then with my dad and his family. So like I had 2 families, and I never felt like I was ever home at either one of them, because every time you get a little set, like I'd go home, like I'd have school, and then I'd go to the summers. I'd spend summers with my dad, so I'd leave all of my friends behind and go stay in the summers and go to camp and hang out with my stepbrothers who I didn't really know and didn't really care for. At that time, we're fine now, but like that was so that I wanted to talk if they listen to this, I'm like, oh crap. But I wanted to do a story about being in homes that you never feel like are your home, and what it can be like to be torn and have parents who don't get along with each other and can turn you against them and stuff like that, and what that does to you and how you act out about that. That was the whole inspiration behind the series. That's why Dylan is the way Dylan is and I know many people. It's funny, like I read some reviews about the book, and it's like there's 2 camps. One camp is like, we love that Dylan's not the traditional superhero. And then anyone who doesn't like the series, the number one thing they say is Dylan's an asshole. So like, that's it. Like, it's like, if you don't like Dylan, you're not going to like the series. And you know what? I'm totally okay with that. That's the point. Like that's what the story is about. If you don't like a guy who is a jerk, which is like that's the point, but like that's where he starts as a jerk. We're 4 issues in, man. Like we got hopefully a long road to go, and hopefully I want to turn him into something different than he is now. Without I don't know if it's a redemption story or anything like that, but like it's definitely a story about somebody who has had bad parenting and then sort of found and sort of stumbles into superpowers, and it's like, how does that change your life? How does responsibility change you as a person the more you have to deal with it and stuff like that? So yeah, that's what I want the series to be about. So yeah, if you don't, he's a jerk. I know that I write him as a jerk on purpose, but I just felt like you can go read And like go pick up a comic book in any comic store, and you're gonna find a Peter Parker equivalent. You're gonna find a Bruce Wayne equivalent. You're gonna find, you know, Dick Grayson. Those guys. There's a bunch of books about people that you want to hang out with that are normal superheroes who you know have a great moral compass and then thankfully got superpowers. I wanted to do something with a different story. I wanted to talk about a guy who doesn't have that moral compass, and how do you become a good person, or how do you become like how does that change? How does power change you? Because, you know, anyways, I could go on all day about this, but that's the way I've been playing with it. And so this is that's my testament to anybody who has been on the fence about the book. I'm like, I know he's a jerk. That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah. But I agree with Nick that is so, I mean, firmly, I'm in the camp of, I think that's refreshing because I read a lot of books with a lot of very, you know, charismatic and fun. And, you know, I mean, you know, geez, some of the books, like some of my favorite characters are kind of firmly in that category, right?
Me
so
too.
it is nice to see, and that's not a bad thing, right? Exactly.
No.
That's a great thing. So it is nice to see someone be, because I also see it in issue 4, we get some great exchanges, you know, between him and some of his schoolmates, and there's some of that stuff that's like, it's like I'm almost frustrated with you that you're making me like this person that I would hate in school. I mean, not even like him. I'm relating to him, and I can empathize, and that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't straight out like Dylan yet, but I can empathize.
That's all that matters.
Right.
I'm in the camp very much of, I don't need you to like characters, but you do need to understand them, and you need to understand why they do what they do and and what they're doing. As long as that, because I feel like that's how villains work, right? In the sense of like, you don't need to agree with Thanos, but you totally understand why Thanos is doing what Thanos is doing, and that's why it makes him a great character, because you're like, oh, I get it. I wouldn't do it, but I get why you're doing it. And I feel like that's how I look with Dylan a little bit, is like, I hope I wouldn't be that person, and I hope I wouldn't hang out with that person in high school. But I knew this all comes with a small quick aside. This all comes. I remember there was this time on a bus when I was like, I think it was in 5th grade. I used to sit in the back, and I remember this one kid was in behind me in the bus, and he was flicking my ear. You know that thing where you just like flick it really hard, and he just kept doing it. I was little and I was crying. And it sucked. And I remember there was this bigger kid who was like right across from me, who finally, after he saw me crying, stopped the kid from doing it. And he turned to me and he goes, "Don't worry, someday you'll get bigger and you'll get to do it to somebody else." And I remember thinking, he's trying to be nice, but that's a monstrous thing to say.
Yeah.
But that's Dylan. Like, that kid was Dylan to me. Like, that's the way he sees the world. It's like that, like, you know, like there's a layer cake kind of thing. And I just thought that's a really interesting concept of like, oh no, I'm going to get older someday and I'm going to be the bully. You know, it's like those people who like, you know, don't want to help the person below them because no one helped them. It's like, those are real things. So anyways, that's Dylan was from that moment of being flicked in the ear when I was like in 5th grade.
Yeah. I like that he has somewhere to go. Like, if that makes any sense. Like, I like that, you know, he's not perfect, and if he were like a smiley kind of hero, then he wouldn't be the titular rogue son. You know, the double entendre there.
There we go.
Like, I like that he has flaws that we will, like you said, presumably we will see fixed and challenged and, you know, and adjusted the more he becomes this hero. And I dig it. And I like that he's just a prominent bully who's also clearly doesn't want to do it, but feels like he has to. That's the other part of it too. Like, I like that. Pull. I like that play.
Well, that's the power that he has. He doesn't have a lot of money. He doesn't have a lot of friends, but he has the power and the willingness to do things other people aren't willing to do. And so he uses that power whenever he can. And like, I don't think he's not like, he's like, I don't look at him as monstrous. Like, I think he does some stuff that are a little dicey. Like, I'm just like, okay, you know, but like, he's not like, and look, maybe I'm, because I was the kid who got thrown in the garbage cans and put in the lockers. And I know how much I hated those people who did that. Yeah. So, but, you know, yeah, like, okay, yeah, I don't want to defend it because that sounds like I'm saying what he's doing is okay, which he's not. And I don't want the book to be about. That's one of the things I've tried to do in the book is I don't want you to think I think this is okay. Like,
Right.
is the girl that like is Byron's telling him no, Vanessa's telling him no, his mother's telling him no, everybody's telling him what he's doing is wrong, and he's doing it anyway. So I'm hoping that makes it, because I think if I was making it be like, well, as long as you have superpowers, you can treat anybody the way you want. That's probably not the best message to put in a comic book. So I don't hopefully people aren't reading it that way. We'll find out. He's not Homelander, you know.
Oh yeah, no. I think we got a far way to go.
Definitely
Yeah, before
he's not drinking milk yet. We'll get to the milk stuff later. Yeah.
Hold on. Also, I feel like a complete idiot, by the way, when Nick said that I just got the title.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Rogue Sun thing. Like you two were talking about it, like it was clicking all the time. I went, man, I feel like a big dumb right now.
Yeah,
it just clicked. It just clicked. And
we had
another
title. We had another title for a little while, and then we couldn't get there was like a copyright thing on it or something like that. And then we went through like, oh my God, went like 20 different titles. And I think I came up with Rogue Sun early, and then I was like, no, that sucks. And then like a week later, I was like, oh, all right, yeah, I'm okay. I'm open to it. And now I can't imagine it called anything else. So we got lucky.
Hey, that's what happened with our podcast name.
Really?
Yeah.
It was more about
all the other names were taken.
Right. Yeah. Finding one that wasn't taken. Because like you don't realize how many like shows or whatever there are out there until you start looking for a name for yours.
Totally.
Like, everything's taken already. Yeah. Like I gotta start putting numbers in there and symbols, and then just no one knows what the hell it is anymore.
It's like when you would like read a comic book character and they would misspell the name of the villain, and you're like, can't the villain spell? And then you go, oh no, they did that because I get it. Okay.
Yeah. There's this other company over here that owns that guy. Exactly. And if they ever meet, a copyright battle will ensue.
Yeah.
Looking back now that you like we're marching to Death Ranger, so you still got some time left. You're still,
I'm writing 100 right now. I'm literally writing 100 right now. Yeah. So yeah.
Now I'm curious. Okay, so like you're writing it.
I'm a little behind. I'm not gonna lie, but I should be done with 100, but I'm a little behind. Yeah.
So when you're done though with 100, like at that point, like of course it's gonna be months or whatever before it like actually comes out and all that. But like, are you like done? Like, is that kind of the point? Okay.
Oh, I mean, I'm done.
Like you're done. Like you're like part of like you don't have to do any other revisions or like you're kind of like that's it. So whenever that time that you're actually finished with this issue till when it releases is kind of like you actually are already kind of done at that point.
Well, it's broken. Like I already know the story. I know the ending. I know the whole thing. It's already like I could show you a document, which I won't, but it's like, like it has every page broken down to exactly what it is and stuff. So it's all done. Like the story's done. It's just now I've got to figure out some of the you got to make it, you got to clean it up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'll turn the script in and then they'll draw it. And then I will be sort of like reviewing the art as I go along. And then when I get the lettering proof for it, I will do one more pass on the lettering proof and change some stuff like that. So like, yeah, I think I'll probably be, once I turn the script in, which I hopefully will be like next week sometime, then I will be basically done for, I don't know, like probably like a month or two.
Okay.
Yeah. So like it'll take about a month and a half before I start getting stuff. But yeah, it's yeah. And then you do that one big lettering pass at the end and then you get it done. So like that. So you're just inspecting colors and stuff like that.
So looking at the things that have released so far, though the answer might be this kind of last arc, is there like, what's the story you're most proud of? Like the one that you're just like, I nailed that across the board.
I turned a cat into a Power Ranger.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did. You really did.
Damn it. Yeah, you did.
I think that's in my that'll be, I know this isn't the question. I think the if I had like two regrets, I can tell you two regrets I've had, or not regrets, but like two things that like, if I had more time, I would do something. I had a lot bigger plans for Matt. I had some stuff that I really wanted to do with that character and some stories I wanted to play that I thought would have brought into the story that I thought were really cool. So I wanted to do one thing with that, but that's probably not on the table. And Yale, I didn't get to do enough with what I think Yale has a lot of potential. I think Yale could be Groot in that sense of like just using them in more fun ways. And I think they ultimately sort of got like they had a lot of interaction, and then the minute they turned into a Blue Ranger, they became sort of the forgotten Ranger that sort of like there and kind of purrs. And I was like, I don't think I really utilized them. I'll tell you a pitch I really wanted to do. I never got to do it. I wanted to do Dane and Yale on an adventure together and do Cats and Dogs. That was my thing. But just the two of them together, like a cat and a dog on an adventure trying to save the Rangers or something, would be so much fun. I really wanted to do that story.
It's like a story made for me.
Yeah, just like because Dane's such kind of he's like a snarky jerk, and the idea that like Yale would just be kind of looking up at him, and like I just think that would be just like a cat's just that cover of them together would have been so much fun. So that's the one that got away. But what am I proud of? I think Go-Go ultimately ended up being what I'm most proud of, which sucks in a weird way because it's like you write that first and you spend the rest of your time chasing it. You're like, oh wow. It's like a filmmaker who made I felt like Orson Welles. I'm like, I got Citizen Kane out of the way. I'm not saying Go-Go Citizen Kane, but I just mean like I got my thing, and then I'm like, every movie you make after that, you're like, okay, sure.
It's no Citizen Kane 2.
It's no Citizen Kane 2, yeah. He's back again. No, I think Go-Go ultimately was my favorite thing. Probably because it just was, one, it was the most manageable looking back. It's only like 7 or 8 characters as opposed to all the other books I did, which were so big and had so many characters, and almost everything I did from Necessary Evil on was always like 2 books running at the same time. And it was just such a huge stories, right? And so I think the thing that I always liked so much about like Go-Go and Turtles, I think were the ones I have had the most fun doing because they were smaller and they were manageable. And I think I knew kind of what I wanted those stories to be about. And everything else was like serving a lot of masters. You know, you're building, you know, you're telling a lot of backstory. You're like with Necessary Evil, like when I got that, like, my man, with Necessary Evil, like, I've said this before. I don't think I'm speaking outside of school. Like I didn't know I was going to do Go-Go, and I broke that story. And then they're like, we'd like you to do Go-Go as well. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I had to sort of take what would have been about 1 or 2 issues of story and sort of expand that into 12 issues. And I think there's some good stuff in there. And I really liked working with Senna. I think Senna's a fantastic writer, but that one was a hard one because I hadn't really gone in expecting to do that. And also the way that Kyle and I left the series at coming into Necessary Evil was like sort of, you know, I know we had Beyond the Grid, but like figuring out a way to sort of explain what happened. It was like a lot of pieces on the table that I had to sort of fold back in. So that was fun, but hard and so like that. And then I like Altarian War a lot, but that was also one of the things that just got longer and longer and longer as I wrote it. So I think that's my, you're getting a very honest Ryan today. I apologize.
Oh, why? No, it's great. It's amazing. Not that you were ever truly dishonest.
No,
before.
but I know. I'm just being like, I can be like, hey, they can't fire me.
It's too late now.
I love everything. The press release is out. Yeah.
What did you call Eltarian War? I can't remember how you referenced it in our.
I don't know, but
in our chat.
I loved it.
You called it. I think you compared it to a Star Wars movie or something. And I was like, I can't remember which one.
That was the yesterday me or whenever it was today. The one thing I do want to know about, like, how was it managing Altarian War across like 2 different books? Because that was I was reading through Mighty Morphin, and I was like, wait a minute, I missed a whole chunk here. And I was like, oh wait, it's the other one. And
they took Draken. What happened to Draken? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that was tough. Because when they were like, hey, we want to split the series into Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers, and they were like, you can do both. I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, but we want them to be pretty connected. Like, we want them to be, at least in the first 3 or 4 issues, they wanted them to be very, very sort of like one story. So you felt like it would make sense. And so there was a little bit of sort of like plot machinations and stuff that I was trying to figure out and how it was all going to work. And then obviously, like the larger story was like building 2 stories. I hope this isn't spoiling that were actually one story until you just didn't know it. You know what I mean? Like that. It was sort of like watching like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, where it's like there's 2 different cases, and you're like, oh, they're actually one big case. And so that was the way that I approached it. Was like, okay, I know there's going to be 2 pieces of this. How can I make them feel like individual storylines that ultimately will ravel together? And that was a little harder, but it was like sort of like looking at like an old film noir style of like, okay, you know, like you don't know there's the Eltarians and then there's the Imperials, and they're like, okay, wait, are they? And you don't know that they're connected for a while. But like that was sort of the intention from the beginning, was like, okay, how can we make it so that, because I was like, they were like, my pitch was, I was like, well, I've done 20 issues of Power Rangers. Like, we don't know a lot about Zordon. I'd love to get into like who Zordon was. It was actually a really fun thing. We were talking about the ending, or talking about what we wanted to do. And I was like, I want to do something in Eltar, but if we're going to do something with the Eltarians, I don't want it to just be a bunch of flashbacks. I want it to be relevant to the Power Rangers today. You know, you just don't want to just be like, because then it would just be like, why are we watching Zordon run around? Like, there's no reason. Yeah. And so that was where the pitch came for the larger reveal in the story, which I won't get into. But the concept of, Dan did a drawing of the original the Guardians, and it was like, and he drew Zordon really young, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Zordon at 16 or 17. That's awesome. I want to write that. I want to see Zordon at the same age as Jason and Tommy and all the kids. Like, I want to do that. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, great. Because originally when I pitched it, it was that Zophram was younger than Zordon. Oh. It was more, and then I was like, no. It's better if it's the other way around. It's way better if it's the other way around. Right. I want to see Zordon. I want to see Zordon before he knew anything of what he was going to do. Like, let's make him crazy, the guy who devil may care. Let's make him the guy who doesn't know, who's run by his emotions. Like, all the things that's the opposite of what Zordon is now. Let's see how that guy became the Zordon that we know today. And then in the present day, let's see how his faith is tested. Let's see what happens when the thing that has been the North Star of your entire life, the Eltarians, and like, they are the one true good in the universe, when you discover that maybe they aren't quite as good as you think they are, and what happens when their faith is tested. Like, that's the story that I wanted to tell, and I was really happy with that. And I know some people have complaints like, well, it wasn't enough about the Power Rangers, and the Omega Rangers just made up a lot of mistakes and then fixed them. And I was like, yeah, but like, I really love that Zordon story. I really love that, because I haven't seen that. Like, Zordon doesn't have any stories. He has that great moment at the end of in space that builds up to that, but that's kind of it. Like, the rest of it is he's just kind of there to be there and be like, good job, Rangers. You know, you've learned a valuable lesson today, haven't you? I mean, that's his job. And so I really wanted to make the story about him.
Yeah. He's essentially Smokey the Bear in Power Rangers. He just sits there and tells you things, and then he goes away, and you're like, oh, okay. And in his case, can't even go anywhere. He's in a tube. Sorry, Dick.
Yeah, no. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, because in the show there are hints of that fallibility, or that like that more critical Zordon, but in the Eltarian Ward specifically, like I like getting to know a more, you know, quote unquote, like human version of him, like a more grounded version. Like, he's literally taken out of the tube. So like, and it's, you're right. Like, we don't get to see Zordon tested. That's the other thing. Like, it's always been, I will send my soldiers off to war, you know, right? But it's never, I'm fighting this war. So and I mean, and we get to see it. So that's also why Eltarian War rules. So.
Well, thanks, man. That's stuff I liked. I liked that. Like, he's fallible. The way that I looked at it was like, he's a very wise and smart guy who really cares. He's the father figure to the Power Rangers. Like, I really believe that he sees, there's a line I had early on in Go-Go where he talks about being like wanting to be a farmer, and he never really wanted to have kids. He never really wanted a family, or no, sorry. He wanted a family and he wanted to be a farmer. He didn't want to be any of this stuff. He didn't want to be a warrior. And I love that idea that when he lost his body and sacrificed that for Eltar, it's like he lost that ability to ever have a life outside of his responsibilities. And so to me, the Rangers were always going to be those children that he's like, I can only protect them so far because I can't be out there with them. And so like, I like the idea that his sort of one blind spot was Eltar. His one thing that he's like, I got that. I don't have to worry about that. Like, that's going to be good. I can trust in that. And then everything else. And then ultimately that's what you want to do. You find the one blind spot that a person has, and then you basically test it. And you go, oh, wow. You know, like, cause he makes a lot of bad moves, and he pushes, like, I like that his concept was sort of like, unfettered sort of, like, you don't question your authority. You don't question the people above you, because he's never had to question anybody in Eltar. He's never asked, like, and so he doesn't understand when the Rangers, especially in that first or second issue, when they come in for Draken, he's like, how dare you do this? He's a personally affronted. He's like, that's insane that you would question like my resolve. That's why we work. That's why things happen, because I've never had to question the people above me. And then it's like, oh, damn. The people above me, I've got a question. And then suddenly he's in the exact position the Rangers were, specifically Billy, I think also Billy and the Mega Rangers. And sorry, he sees the world in their eyes for like the first time in his life, and it brings them closer. And I like that stuff. I read a lot of father-son stuff or father-kid stuff. That's just, apparently that's my go-to. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Nothing wrong.
I agree with Nick.
Nothing wrong.
Yeah, I do. I'm the same way, and I agree with Nick. It was nice to see Zordon be deconstructed a little bit, and it's also made. I mean, aside from just looking cool, because the suits and the designs, they killed, and then also like we get the Lord Zed stuff, which by the way, you've also I feel like have done a lot for Zed, because Zed was another character that looks cool. And is always iconic. You know that look. You know, it's like, oh, that's the guy with the meat on the outside of his body instead of the inside. You know, it's that guy. He's all right. You know?
Yep.
Yeah,
Totally,
him. But like, you never, you know. But the same could be said for Zordon. It's the big face in the tube. Like everyone knows them, but you don't necessarily have anything to kind of grab onto as far as like character development with those people in the show. And here, seeing how Zed comes about, and also just like seeing the decisions that Zed makes, even after like learning the truth, because it's not like they just were best buds afterwards. Like there's still a lot of deep-seated resentment, and there's some other things that have to deal with. So it wasn't like you were just retconning his villainy. I
never wanted it to be a revenge story. I never wanted it to be Zordon's the reason that I lost my skin, therefore I hate him, because that's not what the show showed you. So like, I feel like that would have been sort of a bad move. So what I tried, I mean, obviously you would have some disdain for someone you felt was responsible for that.
For sure.
But I thought that what I liked more about it, it's actually, I think it might be their last conversation, is when he says, when you, like, one thing I thought was really cool, which was like, you have two characters who both were physically deformed for what they believed in, fighting for what they believed in, right? Because you have Zordon lost his entire body fighting Rita and defending Eltar. And then you have Zed lost, obviously trying to go for the Zeo Crystal, lost all of his flesh as well. And so I was like, there's a parallel there that I really love. And but what I thought, there was a moment where Zed tells him, when that happened to you, I thought you would suddenly see the world the same way that I did. But you didn't. You doubled down on the faith that you have in the people you were fighting for. That's wrong. And I think from that moment on, Zord always looked at him as like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong? Like, how can you not see that the game is rigged? How can you not see that who you're fighting for will never fight the same way for you? And so he hates the institutions that Zordon protects. That's why he's like a lord of chaos, right? He's this idea of like, he tears down any institution other than the one. He believes in the institution of Zed. That like, I believe that I'm right and I will fight for that. And Zordon still, even after losing everything and fighting the right way, still defends those people. He's just like, we'll never see the same way. And that was the thing that I really liked about that. So I felt like, yes, like once they learn the truth and everything, I don't think Zed hates Zordon the same way, but they're not going to be friends. And he still wants to tear the guy down because he thinks he's right. So like, I felt like that was the middle ground. It could be personal, but also be more philosophical.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Nick, before I jump into something else that you
I was just to say, I'll admit, I've never once thought about how Zed ended up looking like Zed. So just kudos on the idea in general. Like,
Thank you.
I've never once thought was like, because just like Matt said, he's a cool meat guy. But I've never once thought, how did he end up inside out?
Cool meat guy. You humans in your skin regiments.
Yeah, agreed. And also just while we're throwing out, just general kudos here. I think the work done on the Omega Rangers has been stellar. I've taking what literally was a one episode, transferring the powers, and then we forget all that ever happened.
You guys want to take your helmets off? No, we're good. We're good.
You know who I am. You've seen my face before. Doesn't matter. It's fine.
It'd be like if you were leaving for college and you're just like, you literally look at your mom and you're like,
that's really what it is.
See you later.
So to take that and then build not just like, oh hey, we got them still, but they're still Rangers, but like to build like an entire mythology that we're now seeing extend to, oh, there was others and Death Ranger and all that stuff that's coming is really damn impressive. Like it's been fantastic. That has been probably my favorite part, because like I adore Go-Go because it was such an interesting look at like these characters, like who these characters really are and things we didn't get to see in the show. But like the Omega Rangers, and this was even before the big cat. This was before, like, then you had me, like, right? Like, you might as well. Once you stick an animal,
he was in very early on. Yeah, very early.
Once you stick an animal in a ranger suit, it's over. Like, it could have been a squirrel, it could have been an owl, and it should be. I mean, if they want to introduce owl rangers or whatever,
they're all going to be animals at some point. It's just going to be,
But I think that's such a. It's just really impressive. So kudos on that, and now it's also kind of awesome to see too that since like Matt took over the Mighty Morphin, you're getting to see like him kind of run with some of those Mighty Morphin, like even some of those concepts you were dealing with in Go-Go, like for him to kind of run with some of those and run with some of the fun Rocky stuff and the Matt stuff. And seeing Matt, like the back and forth between Matt and Zordon in Mighty Morphin over the last couple of issues has been really interesting, but like none of that takes place without Altarian War, because you don't have the context and you don't have kind of the why, and now it makes sense like why Matt looks at that and goes like, the hell am I taking any advice from you?
your rules were the reason I don't have any friends for a while, so I'll be like, thanks man, but no thanks. Like I got one boss already, I don't need two. Which I really like. I like their sort of like, I really like what Matt's done. I love the stuff he did with Rocky and the family, and it's been nice just to be able to read. It's so fun to have somebody take the stuff you're working on, just sort of run with it. I'm like, oh, this is nice. This is good. That can helpful. But yeah, the Mega Rangers, I do got to keep giving credit for, like, a lot of that was Kyle. Like a lot of it was conversations Kyle and I had during Shattered Grid, talking about kind of like, what could you next? Cause like, like, I don't think he was like 100% sure he was going to bail after Shattered Grid, but like, ultimately it's like, after Shattered Grid, what else is there? Like, you combined all of the franchises, you've destroyed reality. It's just like, there's nothing you're going to do that's going to repeat himself. So I think he was just like, yeah, like you should do that thing with the Omega Rangers and stuff. And I was like, okay. And it ended up being like a lot of fun. I think I don't know what I would have done if we hadn't come up with that. I don't know if that, because I think that has spawned so much of the lore and and the story. And awesome. I think like we really, I don't know, fans seem to really love that original core group of 6 people. Like the Mighty Morphin Rangers and Tommy, like those 6 people are very, very, like, it's not just the Rangers, it's those characters. And I feel like the way that Jason and Trini and Zach kind of got discarded, it's like, it's been nice to be able to go, no, man, they were still around and they were still involved, and they had their own adventures and they had their own lives and they grew up and they learned from stuff. I think there's something really fun about that. And it's been really, and I know I've talked to Walter a little bit in Austin about it, and they were like, yeah, we love that. So they were very happy with it too. So when the actors tell you did something nice, it's like, okay, maybe I'm doing okay.
You got to love that. Get the respect from there.
So I want to ask about the Imperials though. So the Imperials are like, no, nothing like too heavy like that. But
bring it on.
It's just, they're such like a not like a galactic level threat that not like this is something the Mighty Morphin era has never really had to deal with. So what's it like taking such a huge villain and making it work for a relatively like grounded-ish team, like set of teams?
Yeah, I mean, that what you said is kind of what was my pitch for it was. I was like, if we're gonna do, because they were like, okay, so if you're gonna do Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers and you're gonna do a story that takes place in both places, I was like, it can't just be one person hanging out in Earth and then everything like you're dealing with spacefaring Rangers and you're dealing with home Rangers. It's like it'd be a home team and the away team, right? And so I was like, it's got to be big enough to be able to take on both those teams, because that's also a lot of Rangers, right? It's like they got to be pretty fierce. And so I remember like I went back to the and here's the other fun part was like, so, oh man, boom, they can't fire me now, so I can say these things. They were like, hey, like Bryce Carlson, who's a genius when it comes to marketing and stuff, was like, he had this idea. He was like, it'd be really cool to do like 10 FOC covers that Dan Mora could do. That would be like a story that we'd release on the day and sort of be this sort of story about what could we do with that? And they came to me with that idea, and I was like, I don't know. Like, and then I was like, well, the emissaries are there and they probably would want to check and make sure everything was like normal. And then we could do the emissaries going through each and let Dan draw all the different Rangers, which is really just a great excuse to let Dan just draw cool Rangers. Right. But Absolutely. Then they were like, so we just did that. And I was like, it'll be 10 issues. And we came up with 8. And then they were like, don't worry, we'll figure out the last 2 issues later. And I was like, okay. And so I'm starting to write the next story. I think I was in the middle of Necessary Evil. I wasn't even I was in the middle. I was like 4 or 5 issues left, writing towards 50. And they're like, okay, so we want you to think about who the big bad of the next season is. So I'm like, I'm still writing the story now. You want me to come up with who the big bad of this? And so we started figuring out like, okay, Draken, what could we do with it? So I wrote those last 2 pages in the FOC, not knowing who that was. I knew kind of what I wanted, but I was like, I don't quite know who they are. Let's come up with an interesting look for them. And then it was right as I got the first design from, I think it was from Dan. That was when I was like, oh, I get it. No. These are the dark shadows of the Imperials in my eyes. Let's make the Imperials and the emissaries. Let's make them mirrors of each other. Because I always like, okay, I will say this with complete understanding of Power Rangers universe was not something that I wrote. I like it. I think it's very cool. That's not what I was looking at when it came to the mythology of the Imperials and the emissaries. But like, I will just tell you what I intended and what then I think Universe did a great job of building out and all that stuff. But anyways, my concept was I like that the emissaries were red and blue and yellow because those 3 colors make up all the colors of the rainbow, right? You can use, that's how they come. So they make up all colors. And then I thought, okay, so for me, there wasn't a ranger. There wasn't really an emissary for there wasn't like a green emissary, and there wasn't like there was just those 3. And that's why they talk together. They're the triad of the, that's why they share, they finish each other's sentences. Something that was my idea, was that they were the middle of the whole thing. And then I was like, well, if you have those 3 and you go on a color wheel, the opposite of those 3 are green, purple, and orange. And I just love that idea that all things are balanced and that the grid is somehow balancing itself. Chaos, it's like it's morphin energy and chaos energy. And those 2 things balance each other out. So if an emissary dies, one of these Imperials could potentially rise up to it. And this sort of ebb and flow of like the rise and fall. Because I also looked at what I liked the idea of the Imperials as the Imperials are people, they're not evil. Their concept is that chaos brings growth, and that they would go to a planet, and if the planet hadn't sort of like evolved the way they thought, they would wipe it out and then just start life over again. And then they check back in a few million years again later and see what happened. To them, the universe is so old. Who cares about the people who've been there for 200 years? They just saw it as they saw life in the span of the universe and not in the span of a planetary cycle. So that was my concept for them, was that they were these things that would just come in. They were like acts of God. They would just come in and wipe a planet out. And this morality doesn't even play into it, because they're not thinking about good and evil. They're literally thinking just about these flow of prospering societies and stuff like that. And so that's the way I looked at them, was like, if you looked at the emissaries, they were sort of working there morally, trying to protect and keep life moving. And these ones were just sort of like, yeah, life is overrated and not as special as you think it is. So that was my concept for how they are. So I don't know if that ever worked itself into the comic book. Maybe that wasn't quite as clear, but that was my intentions of how they were. There's like one issue, I think it's like in the middle of, I think it's Power Rangers number like 7, where they talk to the guy, has like a vision of what the emissaries are, or the Imperials are. And if you read that, that's kind of like the fairy tale version of my reasoning and my inspiration behind them. Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. Like all the thought that went into that and the opposites thing. That's awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully it worked as well in the comic book. I don't know, but that was my intention. But like that's when you work in a shared universe with the writers, everybody has their own interpretations of like that and find stuff. Like for instance, one of the things like working with Paul right now, Paul Allore's doing the Death Ranger one shot. Like he took a lot of we had some initial conversations and he's added stuff to it that I had never intended for the Death Ranger, but I love what he did. And I was just like, oh, that's a really cool concept for that sort of that's an in that I hadn't even thought of. And then, so sometimes it's really, really fun to have somebody else take your idea and then sort of run with it. And you're like, oh, I wouldn't thought of that. And so like that fun of working in a universe, I've been really lucky because for the most part, it's just been me for so long, but then every once in a while you're just like, man, it'd be nice to have someone else to solve this problem. So I don't have to do it.
Understand. Yeah, I get it. Well, and now, you know, you're kind of passing that baton, and you know, hopefully in the future we get to see you jump back into the Rangers every so often, you know. But of course you're still busy with your work at Aftershock, and then of course you've got Rogue Sun. The Radiant Black universe seems to be expanding by the minute, and that universe rules too.
Thanks, man.
There's so much cool stuff in that universe. So we could talk to you forever, but I know we need to let you go. Thank you so much for taking the time to just geek out with us. You know, I feel like I don't have to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Huge fan. Love what you've done with the franchise, and can't wait to see what's coming next, buddy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate this interview. I appreciate you guys letting me come on here and talk about this stuff at the end. It's nice and fun and very flattering. And now I'm going to get fired by Boom tomorrow because I've said all these things. It's going to be great. You're going to get the press release tomorrow. It's going to be like, hey, Ryan's not doing 100 now. It's going to be me. It's going to be something. It's Brian Parrott or something like that. But sincerely, thank you for letting me come, Matt. It's been awesome. I think you were maybe one of the first interviews I ever did as a Power Ranger writer.
Oh man. That's
you might
awesome.
have been. So it's been very cool. And I thought it was really cool when I found out that we were going to do this right because I didn't know what day they were going to drop the information. I didn't know when it was going to come out. I was like, I think it's this week. It might be the day that we have this. And I was like, perfect. So this has been great. And Nick, it was nice to meet you finally after all this time. Yes. So thank you. But thank you guys for letting me come on. It really was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you know, I was gonna say, like, thank you. You're always welcome if you want to geek out about Rogue Sun or anything else.
We can talk about Kenobi for like another hour now. Let's just talk about Kenobi for an hour, right?
That show is fantastic. Okay, we're gonna save that. We're gonna do that another time.
There's some good stuff. Yeah,
there's some good stuff, man. I love that show. Oh my god,
can I say one thing that was amazing?
Yeah.
Go for it. Because everybody knows Darth Vader's on it, right? When Darth Vader dragged that woman behind him when he was walking down the middle, I was like, that's the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. I thought that was incredible. They are definitely going the Rogue One approach to Darth Vader, big time.
Yeah. And that's the right move.
Effective.
That is the right move.
Oh, yeah. The more powerful he can be, the better, man. He should cracking people's necks and just throwing people. I was like, dude, oh, God. Yeah. I heard that Ewan got really scared when he saw him on. I was like, yeah, I see why now, man.
It's so good for Hayden Christensen, too, to get that, to get the redemption arc, essentially, of like getting to come back and be like, yeah.
Can I pitch one thing that I really wanted, and I don't know if they're going to do it?
Oh, yeah.
But there's that. Remember when they were on the planet and he sees the vision of Anakin in the robe for like 2 seconds? I hope that I really, really want Force conversations with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin as Darth Vader, as Anakin, thinking this is what I look like. This is my self-image, and the idea that he would be haunted, like a ghost of Anakin talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they can do it over anywhere, just like they did in Last Jedi, where I would have loved to see just some conversations between a fallen Anakin Skywalker, who's now Darth Vader now. And it's like, that. I just think you could have, those conversations could be so good.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll do it, but I really, really wanted that. When I saw that vision, I was like, they're going to do it. And then I don't know if they are, but man, that'd have been awesome.
Oh my god, I really want that to happen now.
I know, now that you put it out there, I want it.
Because I just feel like you could have like the conversation. Like they never had a conversation, really. They fought, they just went into a fight and like, I hate you and you're my brother, and that's it. But I was like, you could literally kind of retcon the fall of Anakin a little bit with like why he's had time to think about it, right?
Yeah.
He's had time to, I don't know. I just think that'd be super cool. The one thing I want more from Kenobi is I just want more insight into what's Ben's feeling and thinking in this whole thing. Like that's what I want. I like the Vader stuff's awesome, but I'm like, man, just like more. Give me monologues of Obi-Wan Kenobi just talking about his feelings. I am all about just do it. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I got no one to talk to Obi-Wan Kenobi about. So
I agree with
you. No, this is incredible. Yeah, like you've only said things I completely agree with. So
yeah, I was gonna say there are no lies detected. This is a fact-driven thing. I want all of that. Please give me Force Ghost Anakin before the fall. Also, I have never been. I feel like honestly, this is the most intimidating Vader has been since Empire. I mean, it's just and honestly, in parts, even I'm probably gonna get flayed for that, but in parts better. Not in the
he's
better
doing the
of
one
a
arm
story.
thing. He's doing the one hand, like, come on. Obi-Wan's just like, and he's just like, okay,
he burned him, man.
Oh, yeah, the drag through the burn was pretty good.
Yeah. Like in the original movie, he was getting punked by Tarkin. So like, he was a military fighter. So it's like, no, let's pretend that military Darth Vader position just pretend that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Like you're scared of him for a real. I adore that, and I so far have loved that series.
It's been fun. My wife did make one really interesting observation in the first episode when that woman sort of speaks up to Reva and is like, "You have no authority here," and then Reva just chops her hand off. My wife goes, she's watching, she's like, "It's really interesting to me that person after losing their arm is just quiet for the next 10 minutes. Like she's not, I would be writhing in pain." And she's like, whenever anybody loses a limb, they're just dead quiet after that. And I was just like, that's a really good point.
That's a very good point.
Maybe she was just too scared at that
just
point.
Terrified. That sucked so went at it.
I get a hangnail and you hear me whine.
Oh yeah. If this was an episode of Barry, that would have just been the whole rest of the scene was the girl just rolling on the ground going, "Help me!"
I love that show.
We can talk about Barry for like an hour too, man. That chase scene in episode 6 or whatever.
How did they shoot that? Like, how did that get made? I want to know.
I always, as somebody who lives in Los Angeles, whenever I see a behind the scenes and they're like, and I see like a traffic jam, I'm like, wait, so they built that traffic jam? So you guys are the reason there was bad traffic that day was because you needed to shoot this scene? But yes. That scene's incredible. That's one of the best chase sequences I've seen in a movie or a TV show, and I don't know when. Like it was amazing. Yeah,
it's a good year for chase sequences too, because there was that one in Batman that was great.
God, that one ruled too. Oh,
yeah. He's man. He's the man.
It's a good team.
All right,
so good.
Thank you guys. We'll talk about every other show besides the one I write next time.
That sounds like a plan. And of course, you can check out all of our Power Rangers coverage over on comicbook.com. And you can catch the Putty Hour on YouTube. We will have it on my YouTube channel. And then we will also have it out. Now all the we haven't talked. It was like we took a little bit of a break between episodes last time, but all the podcast stuff got fixed. Yay! So I finally got everything back up on Apple Podcasts and everything, so you can listen to the audio version of this.
Such a professional.
In another day. Yeah, it took forever. So such a pain in the rear, but it's done. So yes, Ryan, thank you so much, and peace out, everybody. We'll catch you later.